Hey, this is Spencer Froh, and welcome to our new show, brought to you by The Producer's Edge and Launch Global. We are a passionate collective of producers, artists, and educators who are out to entertain you, celebrate art and diversity, and go behind the scenes to demystify the creative process. Every other week, we bring you the dopest original content and delve deep into the genius minds of its creators. Today, we interview Cory and T Strong, owners of Dirty Souls Footwear and their new consignment shop and community outpost, Studio Soul, here to tell us about their journey through the fashion industry on their way to entrepreneurial success and how they are sharing that knowledge with the next generation. What's your inspiration to get into the shoe business?
Ever since I was a kid, I loved shoes. I'm talking all the way back to like 4th and 5th grade. 4th and 5th grade, I think the first pair of sneakers that I ever bought with my own money was a pair of Kangaroos. They were like $60 back in the 80s, to date myself. And it took me a long time to save up to get them, but I did buy those shoes. And that was the first pair that I had. And going forward, from there on out, I was basically turned out. I turned into a sneakerhead before the term sneakerhead even existed. After the Kangaroos, I had a long list of shoes that I wanted to get: shell-toe Adidas, suede Pumas, a little bit of everything. And at some point, I ended up getting all of them. I guess the most memorable part of buying my own shoes is when I was in high school. I actually went up to Short Hills Mall and I bought a pair of Gucci shoes with my own money, and I killed the game with that. Right, and that
in
shoe,
high school.
This was in high school. That was before people even really started wearing Gucci shoes like that. And that particular shoe that I bought in high school ended up being the shoe that Sean Carter turned into his particular shoe. So that shoe right there was a game changer for me. From there on out, I was always in either working in a shoe store or something like that. And the rest is history.
Yeah.
Aren't Gucci shoes like $1,000? No,
They are now. Back then they were like $350.
Yeah, so you had to save up, like.
Right, they were all white and nobody knew what they were. I was like, shoe crazy.
They didn't have the logo on them anywhere?
It's the Sean Carters. They just all white shoes and they had the red, black, and green stripe in the back.
Oh, in the back.
That's right there.
Oh, yeah.
And then Jay-Z took the whole style, 100%. Like, that's when you know you got a passion for shoes, when you spend like 2 or 3 months of saving to buy one pair of shoes.
Yes.
Right. I wish I still had them. I don't know what happened to them. That was 30 years ago.
That's funny.
Yes. And Jay-Z took the style. Yep.
You better be a little salty about that.
I'm not. It's all good. So if they salty, they just hating. So there's no room to be a hater.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a hater.
Absolutely not.
I commend them for that.
Mm-hmm.
You should just let me hold something.
A lot of something.
Little escrow.
Get the bag.
No escrow, right? Yep.
I would say some of the same. I never actually worked in a shoe store though. But I was a total sneakerhead in high school and even before that. I was a little spoiled, so I kind of was able to talk my parents into buying, $50, $60 sneakers, which sounds like a lot back then, not so much now, but yeah, that was a big deal for me to be able to buy Air Max. That was my favorite. I still love Air Max today, and the first gift he ever gave me was a pair of sneakers, and it was Adidas. So aside from knowing that he has an Adidas today, Adidas obviously is his favorite, and they were so cute. I mean, they were purple, white, and I think green. And I'd never seen the color before, I'd never seen the style before, so I was like, okay, I am in a relationship with someone who has more shoes than I do. This is gonna be good. We've had so many businesses, like literally in 93.
Right, that's a
1993, we had known each other less than a year or somewhere thereabout. And with his friends from North Carolina, we had a nightclub called Club DYH.
Right.
And so as under 20, I was under 20, but right around that 21-year-old age, we were actually entrepreneurs.
Right. I think I was 23 or 24 when we opened the club. That was the first business that we had, Club DYH. It was in Greensboro, North Carolina, and it was a huge success. It was the bomb.
Yeah.
DYH stands for Dynamite Young Hustlers. So it was a group of us, and we were like, I'm gonna say 12 or 13 deep. and we all pooled our money together, and we started our own club, and we killed it.
Yes.
That was the first business that we ever had.
It was like $5 to get in or $10 to get in. And it was because Greensboro is very college driven. There's a lot of colleges there, UNCG, A&T, Bennett College, which is an all-girls school. And so we basically were able to attract everybody from all the schools to this one location. And it was super dope. Like every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yep, we brought entertainers in, we brought Biggie in, we brought Wu-Tang in, we brought Supercat in, we brought KRS-One in. Like, we would have entertainers come in all the time, and we did that in our
and
early 20s.
And Biz Markie like almost lived there.
Biz Markie came, he was a Newark native. He used to come through all the time and DJ, so it was a huge success, and that was back when we were in our early 20s. That was the first business.
Yeah.
Then we shut that one down and had another one called Club Elm City. That was the second business. Then we also had a rim store where we sold rims.
What was it called?
That was called Hot Wheels.
Hot Wheels, right.
And then jumping a few years, we had the first sneaker store called Laced. Lace was in South Orange, New Jersey. That was our fourth business.
Yeah.
And as far as brick and mortar, this would be our fifth, which is Studio Soul.
Yeah.
So that kind of jumped around from all over the place from the late 90s to the mid 2000s. Yeah. But in that time span, we've had 5 businesses that was actually brick and mortar. Somewhere in the middle, we had and still currently operate a wholesale business, which is not brick and mortar, which is not retail, but is manufacturing shoes. So there's a huge transition from a nightclub to manufacturing to actually having a brick and mortar school consignment, as in what this is here, Studio Soul.
You could tell that like all those things really coincide for us because we're talking music, we're talking fashion and footwear, we're talking cars, which are all the things that we love. So every business that we've had really speaks to the culture that we love. Yeah.
Because that's what we live. It's not something that we study. It's not something it's just second nature. We've been doing it since we were kids. Like it's in our DNA. That's just what we do.
Did you have like an art and design background, or did you meet someone? Like, what made you decide to like design and manufacture? Because that's a new world from what you were doing.
Yep.
We've been doing it for everybody else.
Yeah,
right. Do it for yourself.
Absolutely. And I personally like to draw, so I like to draw anyway. So it was almost a natural transition from becoming a sneakerhead to drawing to learning how to manufacture. And when I got into the shoe business, which my very first shoe job was at Perry Ellis. Perry Ellis, I don't know if anybody can ever remember Perry Ellis, but Perry Ellis Footwear was my first shoe job, which was very short-lived. It was only about, let's say, 6 months to a year, somewhere around there. And I was a sales rep for Perry Ellis. That's when I learned the wholesale part of the business. From Perry Ellis, I went to FUBU. And at FUBU, that's where the light bulb went off. Because at FUBU, I saw black people making millions and millions of dollars. And I saw the impact that they had on what they were doing. And I learned a lot from those guys. So I think that, to answer your question, that was the light bulb moment, and that was when I said, okay, this is something that has meaning, and it's something that I can do to support my family, because our family started early. We were still in our 20s, and we had already had our first son. So I had to figure out how to make this hobby or this passion into a livelihood. So I started working for FUBU, and I stayed there. Of course, FUBU was around for several years, made hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And I was the second sales rep for FUBU Footwear all the way back since LL Cool J. Right.
And at the same time, I was working for Source Magazine. And so for me to be able to see urban brands emerge in the way that they did, whether it was FUBU or Sean John or Rockaware, Echo, which you worked there as well. Yep. Was super interesting to me because, again, just like you, I hadn't seen black people in a corporate environment, you know, really making decisions and making things happen and giving people 5 mics, like saying, this is what is cool. You know what I mean? Like that was the thing. So to be on the fashion side of that, coupled with the music side of it, it really just brought out everything that we had been, you know, loving and doing since we'd known each other. So it was a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, for sure. We got into basically corporate America and started doing it for everybody else. And I think the moment where we figured that we should do it ourselves is because when you get into these type of corporate positions, regardless of what company it is, you can only go but so far. And they'll start laying you off.
Or not listening.
Eliminating your position or whatever it is. The paychecks were good, but you can only get to a certain level. Even though the face of these brands, and I'm saying brands like Echo, like Esco, which actually is a Newark native, like Fubu, all these guys, they are black-owned faces, but at some point you come to a certain financial level where these companies are sold off, and they're not necessarily black-owned anymore.
Right.
They are black faces representing the brand. However, the people that actually owned it typically are of another race. So I was actually being one of the salespeople, I guess one of the faces of the brands as a salesperson, and selling millions of dollars worth of merchandise per year to all of the local stores is actually making other people rich.
If you're doing it for yourself, it sounds really fun, but at the same time, you're probably going to be working 7 days a week, which is what we currently do for the most part, but we love it. It's something that we love to do, and we can decide whether or not we want this location to open at 11 or open at 9 or not open at all that day, you know. And so being able to make those types of decisions and understanding that that's what doing it for yourself looks like, that was really what propelled me to say to myself, you know, hey, there's nothing to it but to do it, just try. My career really, again, I mentioned the Source magazine, so I did that, but there was always sort of a side hustle to everything. Even if we were in corporate America, we still would have another business, you know, in addition to that. So Laced was one of those things. I worked for Stearns, and Stearns, nobody probably even remembers also, but it was owned by Macy's, and it was a department store, kind of like a Kohl's. And that was where I started my career in buying. So I was a fashion buyer, and from there went to Nautica. I worked for a myriad of different brands, but really also always on the fashion side. And so for me, what I was able to see that, number one, there weren't a lot of people who looked like me. There definitely weren't that many women, black women in the industry. And as you spoke about earlier, there was this glass ceiling, you know, that was there, that we were super happy to be a part of the fashion industry, because it's one of those things that if your culture really creates all these trends, it means something different to you when you're able to actually participate in it from the roots of conception. But then to also understand the inner workings of what that looks like, right? So if you have a store, you're understanding inventory and all those things. So this is part of what we teach in our art of shoemaking class, because what we do know is that it took us 15, 20 years to amass all of this knowledge, and we want to be able to share this with people so that they can learn it in, you know, a couple years. And that way that puts them on the fast track, so they don't have to feel like I've got to go work for some organization or some company for 20 years before I can strike out and do my own thing. So that's really the big reason why we decided to transition into education, because we really just feel like it's our duty. You know, it's our duty to share the information that we know with the next generation, or even with, you know, people of our same age, because some folks just love shoes as a hobby and it's something that they want to learn and know. And so we want to be able to provide that as a service and as a resource.
Absolutely. And it's something that is not taught. Right. Like, it took us this long to get the knowledge that we had, and it's all self-taught.
Yes.
When I say they, I'm talking corporate America. There's a different level of corporate America that's not shown or exposed to people on our level.
Yes.
If that makes sense. And that's something that...
Or people who look like us, and we just want to keep it all the way 100.
Right. And we basically want to expose that. Because a lot of the larger companies, footwear, fashion, and probably just in general, they take ideas and they're grassrooted from our culture and they monopolize it. And they don't teach anybody how to earn or make anything.
How to scale it to a point where they're able to sustain themselves and their families.
Correct. So what we're going to teach, what we do teach is everything. Everything we know.
All that.
We basically just tell them everything.
It's like a brain dump, you know?
Right. Just to give everybody that's interested a better knowledge of how things work and how they can benefit from our culture as opposed to giving our culture away for free.
Yes.
So that was, I think, the biggest inspiration behind teaching the class, to let people know that they can do it and that we are doing it anyway.
Yes.
So if we're doing it anyway, why would we not benefit financially from it?
Yes.
So that's the basic inspiration for the classes that we teach, to let everybody know that this is a path that you can take, because it is being taken anyway.
Yes.
And it's being taken right under our nose. So we're going to expose the I guess corporate America and let everybody that's interested in on the plan, so they can figure out what avenue they want to take to try to I guess earn a living or just further their knowledge on what is ours anyway.
Yes,
right.
Yeah, absolutely. So part of the class, we're teaching marketing, we're teaching logo placement, we're teaching sales, we're teaching manufacturing, how to select fabrics, you know, the anatomy of a shoe, the anatomy of a foot. And everybody's not going to be a designer. Everybody doesn't want to be, but they may want to be in this industry. And so what we're hoping will happen is that students will begin to come together as a collective and say, hey, I took that class, you know, 3 months ago, and now this person is taking it and they're a bomb ass, I'm sorry, can I say that? They are a super bomb at like designing, and I'm really good at sales. So let's come together and do something. So that's really how Sumiko was born.
We've learned that a lot of the students, they don't know what a wholesale price is versus a retail price.
Right. Versus a cost, versus a landed cost.
Landed cost.
Yeah.
And they don't even know it exists. There's small things that we have to let people know is an opportunity or could be an opportunity for you. You don't have to just design the shoe. You can design the laces. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
It's so much to it. You can supply the materials for the shoe. You can be the manufacturer. It's so many different things that's available to make a living on something that is not readily known. The shoe business is a very, very, very complex web. It takes a lot to make a shoe. It takes an army to make one shoe. I mean, we're just trying to give you the weapons if you want to be part of this army, basically.
I love that.
Yeah.
We want to make the course that we teach even bigger and larger, and be able to offer that not just within the city of Newark and the public schools as well as this location, but outside the city as well. Mm-hmm. The best thing ever is when you can take your passion and turn it into your job, and it's something that you love to do every day without people having to wake you up and, you know, shake you to get things done. You are your own motivator, and that's really what we strive to do. We were sitting in this meeting and we had just finished, you know, talking about what we wanted to offer and all those things. And this one student who was involved in the meeting, he hadn't said anything the entire time. So we didn't know whether or not he thought that it was a great idea, was interested or not interested. And just before he left to go back to class, he literally looked at us and said, "Thank you so much for coming, because now I know what I want to do with my life." Yeah. And that was the moment that both of us just kind of looked at each other. And I'm such a crier, like I wanted to cry in that moment. And not necessarily just because of what he said, but it was the feeling and the emotion behind it. Because for us, it was confirmation. It was confirmation for us to know that what we had set out to do was actually something that was going to impact lives, and that's the purpose. You know, that's really
this guy he's a young artist, and he's a sneakerhead, but he had never seen someone that looked like him that actually manufactured, that knows the business, that made a shoe, that's something tangible that he can see. He was so used to Nike, Adidas, all the bigger companies. He had never seen a black couple that made shoes and was willing to teach him how to do it.
Yeah.
So he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do with his life. What did he want to go to college? All he knows he wants to be, and he's an artist. He wants to be in the footwear business. He had no idea how to do it. So when he saw us, it made it tangible. It made it something. It made it achievable. So when that happened, which we still to this day, he's still one of our students.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was the moment that was like, okay, we're doing something good.
We're doing the right thing.
Yep. So the whole coronavirus put at least a 1 year to 18-month hold on our manufacturing business.
Side of the business, yeah.
So we had to figure out, okay, we're not going to be selling or manufacturing any shoes right now for at least another year and a half. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
So it was time to get a little bit creative and do something like this. We always had the idea of the school regardless. So
it was just a little later down the road. This, COVID just kind of sped it up for us, and finding this location. And, when things start to come together at the same time and things start to flow, that's the next step that you need to take.
It's just a pivot. You got to be able to, I guess, roll with the punches. When somebody hits you on the right, you got to move to the left.
Yep.
So as long as you can adapt, that's part of being an entrepreneur.
Yes,
so
the biggest part.
You can't just lay down and say, okay,
that didn't work.
That didn't work. It's over.
Let's close up shop. Yeah, it doesn't work.
You just
you
gotta keep it moving. That's what makes people successful.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of how much money you have or how fast you do it. Like, it's all a process. You have to trust the process. You just got to keep moving.
I like to call it failing forward, because to me the word failure is just a lesson. It's not really a thing. You shouldn't take it as a personal hit to your ability to get something done. If you still have that dream, you should continue to go after that dream. There's no reason to stop. It's just a roadblock that was put in front of you for that moment. It doesn't exist forever because, anything that you chisel hard enough at, it's gonna move. It has to break. And so you break the thing that's in front of you, not the other way around.
So basically, COVID us up, but we kept it moving.
Long story short.
Right. You got to keep it moving.
Got to keep it moving.
If you don't keep it moving, you're dead in the water.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're not going to be dead in the water. We're going to keep it moving by all means necessary.
Yes.
Dope. So the store, I know it's more than just a shoe store. We've already talked about how it's almost like
a cultural outpost.
Yes, that's what we like to call it. We love to call this place, and it was a suggestion from someone else that it is a cultural outpost. That's how we see Studio Soul. And basically what that means is we have consignment shoes here, so people can bring things that they love and spent their hard-earned money on and are ready to let go of, and be able to make some money in addition to that. We have actual just regular retail, things that we've purchased and are reselling. We have artwork here, and all of the artwork is Newark-based artists. And, for us, that is a prideful moment because we're able to showcase what's great about our city, and art and music and jazz and all those things are the very fabric of Newark, especially from a cultural perspective. And so to be able to have that here and showcase that is very meaningful for us. To be able to use this space dually as a footwear academy to share all of that knowledge that we have and do that brain dump that we talked about means a lot to us as well, because we know that with representation, when people see themselves in various different ways, it inspires them. So from this being a cultural outpost to a very inspirational space, we try to create this energy that welcomes everyone, that makes them believe in themselves as they believe in, whatever other brands they love and purchase. And so for us, it really just is a space where we can come and invite the community and outside the community people to come in and kind of see who we are and what we do here in Newark, because I feel like so many times we don't get the positive press that we should. And I mean that as a city and as a culture. And I think that this space will be helpful in allowing us to do that and create this new narrative about Newark.
Absolutely. Well said.
Hey, I hope you learned something from the Dirty Souls crew today. Their shop, Studio Soul, is located in downtown Newark. Look it up in Google Maps, and you can find them on Facebook and Instagram via Dirty Souls Footwear or Studio Soul. That's SOLE. Thanks so much for watching, folks. We'll see you at the next episode of The Producer's Edge.